Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another great episode of Bold Takes and Bad Tempers. I am your host, as always, Zachary Ronaldo, better known online as Zach the Bold. I am recording this episode on Thursday, so if Half-Life, me sitting down, fell for it again award. Last week, we had mice in my ceiling, which made powder fall all over my room, which I could not figure out what it was. And I said that I didn't do blow last episode, and people didn't believe that because I sniffle because of my allergies and also because of the way I act. Sorry that I'm literally high on sunshine right now. So a lot of people said, Zach, do not leave the mice in your ceiling because they will repopulate. Apparently that's how mice, get everywhere, is that they just constantly do it. So at night, what I did is I went to Goodwill and I bought a microwave and I had taken the door off and I had triggered the microwave to make it feel like the door was closed, and I put it on a tripod. And I had it lifted towards our ceiling, and all night I have it going so that it can blast out some kind of ray, I don't really know, I'm not a scientist, through my plaster and my ceiling and into the hearts of the mice and also their genitals so that they can't reproduce anymore. And so I've been leaving that on for a bit. I've been thinking that I'll still find their mummified bodies, the room will still smell. It doesn't smell yet, and I haven't heard anything in a bit, but I also haven't been writing as much in this room because I only hear them at night. Are mice nocturnal? Is that a thing? I actually don't care enough. What if it's a mouse just walks across? What would I have to do, right? I have to know that at some point I went the Zeke route, and I shot microwaves up into my ceiling. And they're all mummified, holding hands. People are like, that was sad. Why did you say that? That was sad. I'm sorry. It's just like Thanksgiving's coming up, and I'm talking to you about the modern day Thanksgiving. They're mummified, holding each other. They look like the cast of Wicked. I don't know. If you don't know what this is, because 99% of my audience are blue-collar workers, of course they wouldn't know what this is. There is something going on at Disney that has made it so that the cast of Wicked essentially, in their own right, look like they have been eating maybe the skin of a kiwi for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, one meal a day. And they have seemingly went through the most traumatic experience in the entire world. And a lot of people are talking about it because every single interview is Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo holding their foreheads together and weeping. And they still air this stuff. They still air it. And I'm sure in a year or 10 years, there will be a Netflix documentary talking about how probably this was the worst experience ever. Disney has force-fed them Ozempic pills and literally they've had apples, and that is about it. That is what their day consists of. And it probably took a large psychological toll, also because the fan base is incredibly insane because it's a theater thing, right? As much as D&D is whatever. But the thing is, honestly, I'm going to get canceled because now I sound insensitive about it. But we don't know. We don't know the extent. This could just be a thing where maybe they're both going through something. There's an interview where they're a helicopter goes overhead and they have to stop because they're Mr. Helicopter, please. Ariana Grande's holding Cynthia Erivo's head, and she's like, please, Mr. Helicopter, go away. I actually don't know if she's British or not. Please go away. And they're sobbing and weeping. And us in the public, we watch that and we go, that is changing. I think back to 10 years ago. God, at this point, it's 15 years ago. And we were listening to Macklemore, and we were listening to Meghan Trainor, all about that bass. I was playing Black Ops 2. And now it seems like we've completely diverged from what the message was 15 years ago. And now we're back at exactly the place of between K-pop stars and this that's going on. It just seems like maybe it's not the healthiest thing. We're at Thanksgiving. We look up during prayer time, the two siblings are holding each other because a helicopter went by at some point. So that's been a very bizarre thing that we had to look at. But for a lot of people in the D&D community who have played D&D, they know that, it's the biggest thing for a lot of theater kids because it makes sense. It's an improv-based game. You can play a character. You get together and you tell a story. And when I was in college, we had this thing, and every DM who's been DMing for a long time knows there are theater kids like this at their table. They have to kind of walk around eggshells with certain topics. Like sometimes, you know, you can't have like a werewolf because there'll be like, when I was a kid, actually, my pet hamster was eaten by a large dog, and I can't deal with werewolves anymore. And you're like, oh shoot, okay, yeah. When I was in theater in college, we had, before we started every rehearsal or show, we had a prayer circle. And I stood around it for about 2 years before I couldn't do it anymore. Every rehearsal, we'd hold our hands together, and without fail, there'd be someone who'd be like, hey guys, I don't want to take up too much time, but my sibling, they were working at the steel mill, and they got sucked into a machine, and they lights out in like half a fraction of a second, and it ended up on Live Leak, and now I don't want to explore the internet because if I come across that video, I think it'll do irreparable damage to my mental state. And then someone would pray right after, be like, hey guys, exams are coming up. Can we just get a prayer for that? And everyone would be like hugging them and, yeah, exams suck. And the person that's like standing there is just like shaking their head no. So we've been dealing with stuff like this, and it's weird to see in the zeitgeist of thing, this behavior that like theater kids have, where they're just like caressing each other, and everyone in the world is like, what's that about? And they go, oh, they're doing a show, like they're making Wicked the movie, which is like a theater production thing. You don't see Timothy Chalamet hold the who played the Oompa Loompa in the new one, who just like really didn't want to do it. The guy from Heretic. Hated that movie, dude. Of course I did. Holding it was like, everyone's like, oh, you don't know this actor's name? No, there's too many. I gotta remember all these names now. There's too many celebrities these days. Zach, you don't know this guy who was in Harold and Kumar's Trip to White Castle? Is that the name of the movie? Harold and Kumar. Yeah. Zach, you don't know the name of this actor? No, because I now need to know the name of Vocaloids, VTubers, content creators I'm supposed to hate, pranksters, streamers, actors, directors. There's too many famous. I'm not into sports, right? But how am I supposed to know the name of a running back that's on the Cleveland Browns, right? And also the name of like the background actor that grabbed both margaritas in Jurassic World. How am I expected to know the names of all these people? At all points in my life, I have an obelisk in my hand that sends in the like ancient runes from Dead Space into my head as it rots away, and I'm supposed to be remembering all the names. So what if I didn't know that the Korean War was before the Vietnam War? I wasn't taught that in school. And there's certain subjects that if I'm not taught in school at a very, very early age, right, you're never going to learn them unless you go out and you figure it out. How was I supposed to know the Korean conflict was before the Vietnam War? This is what it looked like when I went to public school. I had gone into history, and we talked about the Revolution, and I had a great history teacher. Talked about the Revolution, we talked about the Civil War, and then we went to kind of like more modern stuff, and we skipped over World War I and World War II. Like, am I supposed to talk about how Archduke Franz Ferdinand's assassination was the shot heard around the world? Because that's all they said. I don't know what was going on during the time that made it so that everyone got really pissed off about it. And to this day, I have to look into it. You know, I try to watch that one series where it was like History in Color, and then they scrapped it off Netflix. Where are the kids supposed to be getting their education? Where are they? I will never forget the fact, this is literally how it went. Revolutionary War, Civil War, and then it went into opium production in the Middle East. And so I'm like, I feel like we've skipped a big chunk in the middle. I feel like we've skipped a huge chunk right there. And that is literally, and then I go into college, and I go into a liberal arts college, and they teach me about the gin epidemic in like the 1700s in Britain. My historical teachings, right, in school and in college has like pinpointed throughout history, and I've never had a cognitive timeline. I've learned more from playing Call of Duty World at War to Black Ops 3 campaigns than I ever did through public education or private education for that matter. So don't yell at me about how I didn't realize the Korean War. I wasn't there, all right? I wasn't living through it. So I think, like, honestly, where was I going with this? Where did it begin? How did I end up here? And I just really don't know. I have notes, and it's just not working for me. Go to your local theater and work on a production. Be in Boise, Indiana. Is that a place? and go to Kokomo and go to their civic theater that's at the bottom of a La Quinta Inn where it's a fire hazard and go figure out that this is just what a lot of theater people are. There must be something going on. Maybe. We don't know. I'll be at PAX this coming weekend. Oh, this previous weekend. So I guess it's not even an announcement because this is coming out the Monday after I'm there. So if I saw you at PAX, I'm so glad. I hope you had a good PAX Unplugged. I was on exactly 0 panels. Maybe it changed last minute. But I fly out tomorrow. PAX starts technically tomorrow, and no one has asked me to be on anything. And why is that? I think I bring too much to the table. I steal the spotlight in too many ways. And I think, like, if I were to go on a panel, it would be over capacity. You know, it's a fire hazard. When I'm on a PAX Unplugged panel talking about how to integrate a session 0 into your game, I fill up an arena like Queen did back in the whatevers because I don't know history. I don't know when Queen performed. Did you know Charlie Chaplin died 3 years before Pharrell Williams was born? I know that because of Brendan Lee Mulligan talking about his time earning $50,000 on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. This is how we learn nowadays. It's a color by numbers book, right? People are like, history was written by the victors. History is written by whatever TikTok comes across my For You page, okay? And I just believe it. I have an AI news reporter talking to me, talking about a crisis in an Eastern European country I'd never heard of. And for some reason, that's why my magic cards bend too much because of the foil. And that's how we learn history now, folks. Times are changing. Will you get up with it? Will you get along with it? I talked to my 10-year-old nephew and I asked them about history, and they tell me about season 1 of Fortnite. Okay, can we accept that this is what the world looks like now, folks? Morally, is that okay? I don't know. I don't have time to think about it. I have time to look at my obelisk for it to shoot runes into my head, right? I might as well have the chum bucket helmet on my head and the little antenna coming out, all hail plankton, because I don't know when the Korean War was, but I do know that Vietnam had movies made about it, and I do know that it impacted us. I know that there is a reason now why Charlie Sheen is famous, and that is because inherently the Vietnam War existed, right? And this is how history is told to us. So I hope PAX was good. If anything crazy happened, I'll add an addendum, but I'm not getting back until Monday morning, and I want this video to go out on Monday because I don't like it when it doesn't. I try to be a little bit more continuous about it. I'm leaving tomorrow at 3 a.m., to go to the airport because my flight takes off at like 6. I'll probably leave a little later than 3, but I'm waking up at like 4 or 3 or 4 because for whatever reason, I have a Dr. Jekyll to my Mr. Hyde. I have it whenever I schedule a flight or I book a hotel. All of a sudden, my skin changes and I grow like facial hair and one of my eyes starts to drift away like Pennywise. And I go, what can future Zach have the worst flight of his life? I know, I'll have it depart at 6 a.m. And yeah, that's because I want to get there at noon or whatever. And then I book a hotel and I don't look at the outside pictures. I have no idea. I could be in the worst part of Philadelphia and I'd have no idea until I show up. And then everything else is sold out because it's PAX Unplugged. And then I'm bringing more mice and bed bugs to my house because because Dr. Jekyll, which one was the evil one? Was it Mr. Hyde or Dr. Jekyll? Okay, it's Mr. Hyde. I turn into Mr. Hyde and I book my hotels and flights twice now. I have had memories of booking flights and then I go to look at my itinerary on whatever flights I fly on and they're non-existent. Mr. Hyde over here gave me false memories that I booked a flight. And so then I book it 1 week out and it's $5,000. I have to go on TikTok and be like, we have a football shoe and we're going to go into Starbucks and we're going to see if they can fill it with matcha. For $500, the first Starbucks worker that goes out and I have to do a public humiliation ritual for someone who works in a in a Starbucks, at an Arby's, and and it has to be over a minute, so I will edit it in such a way that it's just over a minute so I can get it monetized as much on TikTok to pay for these flights that Mr. Hyde here didn't book. So I go, and this is how the Kokomo, Indiana incident happened. This is how I spend $1,000 million every single time I book a hotel or a flight, because Mr. Hyde takes over my body. And I don't want you guys to psychologically look into me. I don't want you to look into my inner workings of my mind. Well, Zach, so what if I have to turn the light switch on and off 3 times? Why? Oh, because Charlie will die otherwise. Wow, I actually met Lynn Marie Stewart, who I had met. So Lynn Marie Stewart, this is for It's Always Sunny fans. In Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Charlie Kelly, Charlie Day's character, has a mom, Mrs. Kelly. And Lynn Marie Stewart plays, you might know her from Pee-wee's House, Pee-wee's Playhouse, and American Graffiti. And Lynn Marie Stewart is like, also, she was a part of like Groundlings, which if you don't know what that is, it's like an improv group like Second City or UCB. And she was incredibly funny, and I met her near the end of her life. And I was green, I was new into LA. I had just moved out there, maybe 2 months in. And we had this opportunity. I was taking classes on the old Charlie Chaplin lot, now the Netflix Studios lot. And one of my professors, who I did appreciate, a lot of people did not like him, but I appreciated it. I thought he was a funny guy. He was like a Groundlings alum and everything. Brought in Lynn Marie Stewart to say like hi to the class. And I'm the biggest It's Always Sunny fan. I used to watch It's Always Sunny. I'd play Subway Surfers and watch It's Always Sunny. One like in my brother's room with the AC on, like stuff that like Midwest emo songs are singing about. And I was the biggest fan. I met her, and she was so funny. And she talked with me after class, one-on-one for 20 minutes. She did not have to do that. She didn't have to do any of that because I wanted to get into comedy. And I wanted to know, like, she was a successful actress and everything. And I have somewhere around here, I have a picture. And she was the sweetest lady. God rest in peace. And I had met her. And she had given me great advice about living in Los Angeles. And clearly, to some of her extent, like, her advice worked for me, you know? And she was, God, that's a good memory. I just kind of remembered that. That was, rest in peace, Lynn Marie Stewart. She was a wonderful, wonderful lady. Where was I going with this? Yeah, but I don't get mad at me about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because it's been growing for years. I used to do this thing as a kid when I would be full. I'd be full of food. This would be after like a large dinner. It'd be after like a large lunch. I would eat myself till I was stuffed like a pig, like a nurgling. And then what I would do, this is a real thing that I do, I would grab like a full loaf of bread. I would grab like a huge container of mashed potatoes or something like that. And I'd go like, I'd say in my mind, I would pretend to eat it. I would do this. I'm not even joking. I pretend to eat it. And in my mind, I'd be thinking the whole time, future Zach, when future Zach is hungry, he's going to be jealous of me right now. I have a full loaf of bread in my hands right now, and I could eat it, but I'm not going to because I'm so full of food. And future Zach's going to be pissed. What does that mean? Why did I do that? And to this day, I'm thinking of a 6-year-old kid, me, when I was younger, thinking, that stupid motherfucker. I want that bread right now. I'm starving. I'd be on hikes when I was going through my quarter-age life crisis working at Gold's Gym in Hollywood, and I would hike up Mount Baldy like 3 times a week, and I'd be hungry, but I wouldn't eat until I would get to the top because I wanted to have that peanut butter and jelly that I'd have. The whole time I'm like, I'm hiking up the mountain. I'd be thinking of myself as a 6-year-old holding a full loaf of bread, being like, this was like 2 years ago. And I still think about it to this day. So don't psychologically analyze me. I don't know what that means. Rest in peace, Lynn Marie Stewart. Honestly, like, the dementia arc is coming, like, whatever, terrible thing to experience. My grandmother had Parkinson's. It's a terrible thing to see. And if I just get it on early onset, just take me out. Just like eating Gilbert's grapes, just take me out. I actually haven't seen that movie, so I don't know what that means. But, like, maybe that's really bad. Should I cut that? I won't do that. Like, just let me go. Right after, like, I will Walter White punch down if I get it, I'm just like let me get into a wakeboarding accident or something. So really just let me have it. And in college, I went to my brother converted from being a Methodist Christian. This sounds like, what's that one meme where it's like, we just moved to Brooklyn. My father was a Jehovah's Witness. My brother converted to Roman Catholicism from being a Methodist growing up, which if you know anything about Christianity, that's like a crazy leap. He converted to Roman Catholicism, went every day to like Wednesday Mass, Latin Mass. Sorry, I shouldn't say every day Wednesday Mass. He went to Mass every day. And my brother and I went to the same college, and it was a Protestant school, and he got into it because of sports, and I got into it because I wanted to win a mini fridge. So I had sent in a bunch of college applications out because I wanted to win a mini fridge because my high school had a competition that if you sent out 5, you'd be entered into the win, and I didn't win it. But I got the school. The school I wanted to go to didn't exactly accept me. Well, they did accept me, but it was so expensive. However, this other school that I was going to let me in because I got a scholarship because my father was Puerto Rican, which is why my hair is curly. Honestly, he looks like Joe Pesci. My dad looks like Joe Pesci. He's a short Puerto Rican guy. Very funny. Grew up in the Bronx, New York, moved up. My dad was a Jehovah's Witness. Stop stuttering. My brother had this professor. Everyone had to take theology. It's a liberal arts school, and it's a Protestant school. And my brother took a theology class, and for whatever reason, the professor went on this rant that when he's 80 and old and has a full family, that when his time is ready to go, I don't know if it's like he's about to go and pass on to the next life, whatever. He said that it's going to be the middle of winter. He said he's going to wait it out until winter. It's going to be a snowy day. They're going to drive out like 100 miles to northern Michigan. I don't really know how many miles that is, whatever. I don't know math. I don't know geography. I don't know any subject ever. I know that you can roll dice and play a game, and some people watch my content. That is what I know. And if it's not on TikTok, I don't know about it. And that his plan was that when God was ready to take him, he would wait until it was a snowy, cold day, and they'd park the car, and they would have a place where they do it, and he'd bring his whole family, and he was just going to walk into the forest and let God take him, aka he was going to die. He was going to just go and start going. And the whole class is silent, right? Because it's like, what is this dude? College professors just like don't care. They'll just go on these random tirades. It's like listening to this. And the whole class is silent. But the thing about being in like a liberal arts, like Protestant college is that everyone will try to be as intellectual as possible, right? So they're all going, yes. I don't know if that's in every college, but oh my God, when I was in college and I heard people go, and it'd like be a symphony, I'd be like that kid in Hereditary, and I'd slam my head into the table. I couldn't stand it, dude. And my brother's sitting there, and he's listening to this, and he looks around, and he raises his hand, and he doesn't even raise his hand. He just goes, "Hey, professor, you should not do that. You should not do that at all." And like everyone, like all of a sudden, it like broke their conditioning, and they were like, "Oh yeah, maybe you shouldn't bring your whole family, because how does that look, right? Goodbye, family. Goodbye. I have some reason God needs to take me now." Turns around, starts walking. It's like negative 40 degrees. And you're watching as like your father, your elderly father walks into the forest. And you just hear from the distance, "Oh, it's so cold. Oh, this was such a bad idea. Someone please." And you're there and you're like, the kids are looking around. Like, should we go? And the wife is like, "No, this was such a dumb idea. Please, someone just let me go a normal way." And they're like, let's just go, I guess. And then for like, it stops snowing. It's not a picturesque day. And the grandpa is like The Shining, like the end of The Shining, Jack Torrance. He's frozen like that. Just gone. So it's always good to have a counsel whenever you're doing something like that. Make sure to talk to your friends. I'm lightheaded. Bold Takes and Bad Tempers is a Dungeons and Dragons podcast where we take in random questions and I can answer sticky situations. Dear Zach the Bold, I genuinely debated about starting this email with Dear Zach the Mold. You did what? Holy moly. but I decided not to flame you right out the gate. Did I answer this before? I'm writing to let you know I like the show. Sometimes I listen to it while working my part-time job at the ice factory. Ice factory? I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you did a solid... Ice Factory. Oh, Revolver Ocelot? I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you did. Solid Snake's voice to say Ice Factory as well. It comes out of a big chute, falls into a bag, comes down a short conveyor belt, and then gets sealed closed by a heat sealer. So, get this. I understand what an ice factory is. Thank you for thinking I'm the... Listen, I've seen a TikTok of how it's made. It's a how it's made episode, cut up into 30 segments, and I've watched that, okay? So I know how an ice factory works. Everyone gets their ice from a fridge, Zach. You might not know what this is. Okay, I'm being mean. I'm sorry. I'm working on it. And then it gets closed by a heat sealer. I then did you guys know there's more heat in a glacier than a single match? A lit match, I should say. I then take the bag off the conveyor belt and throw it onto a pallet. The bag is either 7 pounds, 3.175 kilograms, or 20 pounds, 9.072 kilograms. My back is sore by the end of almost every shift. Sometimes I listen to the show at my other part-time job at breakfast restaurant. I work on the weekends. I'm just hit with that. Like, I know what are we talking about right now? Whatever, right? I was talking earlier about my father, right? Grew up in the Bronx. My dad was a Jehovah's Witness. He later went on. But it's ever since like the first job, when I was 16, I worked at Arby's. And that's when you meet like real world people, right? That's when you go and you're making pennies on the dollar. You're buying CSGO cases. You can barely afford anything, but it's enough to get by because your parents have worked very hard for you to be able to do something like this. And then you meet like Charlie, the dishwasher. And he has 7 kids with 40 different people, and he's barely making ends meet, and he has goals and dreams and aspirations, and he has parents that love him, and there's, and his impact makes an impact on the world, and his story, most likely, in all honesty, will never be told. His dreams may or may not never come true because he doesn't work on the things to make it so he gets out of his current position. And whether or not those are because of factors outside of his life, he is a part of the reason that you're able to go into a drive-thru and pick up a burger and never think about it. And his story will fade to memory. And if he has a legacy or not doesn't matter. And I don't think that's what life is about. And then you go on and you work at a restaurant. And I talked to a chef one day, and he tells me that he's making bandanas for celebrities and that one day he hopes to get his own food truck going. And for a second, your lives intersect at this moment in a world where you would never in a million years find another individual like this and have a conversation with them. But because your guys' lunch break aligned, you had a moment for both of you to talk about what's next. How do I get out of this? And you learn that the insignificant person who wraps your burger, who ships your package, who puts the tape on the package, for a second, you realize that there is no insignificance in the people around you because each person is a universe in themselves. And you don't realize this going to school because that's your whole life is those people around you. And you think literally that the world evolves and your point. And then you realize at that moment, you're not in the Truman Show. You're not in a video game. You're not the main character. And for a second, it's like you have this moment that could go into an indie film where you talk one-on-one with someone whose dreams are as strong as yours. And for whatever reason, they may or may not look out. And this is the thing about working in a restaurant or these short part-time jobs is that I never saw that person again. Not that was my life. And never. But for a second, when you guys talked, your worlds intersected. And you realize in that moment that there's nothing else going on in the world except that conversation. And then you just never have it again. So for someone to write in and be like, I work at an ice packaging facility and then I still can't make ends meet, so I have to go out and work a breakfast job. And it's just like, I'm not saying you're insignificant. I'm not saying your story's insignificant. I'm actually saying it's the most significant thing that people don't even think about. But when people write in, this is why I have the bit about blue collar jobs, about, people who work hard and that are never talked about. Because the stories that they have are the most common story of all time, and no one talks about them. I just made a video where sometimes debatably I make videos that it's like, I just use the power of D&D as a framework to tell to give the message that I want to. What about that last video? And if you're watching this in the future, the last video I made is about the guy who always rolls good and then stops. And then he's working, he's like in the middle of nowhere and he has no one around. And it's cold and it's empty and it's vacant, right? At a moment's notice, even the most prolific actor will say they are as good as their last movie. Even for me, my biggest fear is that all of a sudden it just doesn't work for me anymore. That I'm not funny, that I don't get it, that I'm not ingrained in the world that I'm in, And it's just a point where I want to emphasize to people that a moment in their life, it's almost like The Chair Factory. Tim Robinson's The Chair Factory, if you haven't seen it. It's just people live their entire worlds, their entire days, and we talk of heroes when in reality it's just like, the real story is being at a table surrounded by people with 1,000 different stories to tell. Modern Warfare 1 quick scope compilation. Don't break me. Linkin Park. Sometimes I listen to the show at my other part-time job. I work on the weekends. Other times I listen to your show during class when I'm at the welding lab. I have broken legs. My skin is made of glass. I have 4 jobs. I just want to say right now, never mind. I've never given an earnest effort to D&D before. I had one brief excursion that didn't last very long, but I gotta ask, which welding rod do you prefer? A 60-10 is really kicking my butt right now, but when I got the bread pattern correct, I feel so proud of myself. 70-18 seems more straightforward, but keeps the pacing of the rod consistent and the line straight, presents its own minor hurdle. As much as pain as I think it is, I think I'm starting to like 60-10 more than 70-18 due to the challenge and reward of it. Do you have a favorite rod? I only tried out these two, but I'd love to hear what you recommend. I'm also from Michigan as well. Shout out Michigan. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, sincerely. And that's like political. It's like political for me to say that. Do I have a favorite rod? When I'm looking at so I have a bunch of buddies who are into welding, and I actually know one who's an underwater welder for BP, right? And I'm counting that the clock's ticking. He's making great money, but it's kind of like the cartel, where it's like underwater welding is like being a part of the cartel. You'll see them brag all the time about the money they have and the cars, but then you'll see something where it's like, yeah, well, sorry, but Cameron drowned underwater welding because, this big entity does not care about the little man and did not look at the safety, the correct OSHA precautions. At the same time, it's like, yeah, you see the cartel has lion and tigers or whatever. And then you'll see on a Twitter headline that their entire family's been killed and things like that. What am I talking about? I totally agree with your kind of presentation of these two welding rods. For me personally, right, I think it's more, and if we look at fighting games, right, if we look at video games, I always go for what is not meta. So when you look at your welding rods, what isn't the meta, right? What is more difficult and more rewarding, right? And I think you have to kind of take what I'm saying, because I don't want to promote any kind of welding rod, so I won't say out loud what my favorite is, just in case I get sponsored by them. Then there's not a conflict of interest there, but always go for what is not meta. When looking at the welding rods, what is anti-meta, or what is the most anti-meta and the most fun? So I appreciate the question. Thanks for writing in. Hey, Zach, I'd love to get your take on something from my last D&D session. Our campaign has been running for almost 4 years now. In the latest sessions, that is not an invite to email about non-D&D questions. It's the podcast is all about D&D if you really think about it. But the questions are only D&D, but I appreciate that last question, truly. Our campaign has been running for almost 4 years now. In the latest session, 2 PCs died in what was meant to be a deadly encounter against a reoccurring villain and his crew, their third attack on the party so far. His goal was to kill one PC and take the weapon they were attuned to. If the party surrendered them, he'd kill them and leave. They refused, fought hard, and during the fight, one PC dropped to 0 HP, and they finished off for being a thorn in the villain's side. He then killed the weapon's attuned player character, tried to teleport away, but was stopped and killed. End result, 2 dead PCs, villain and crew wiped out. In the world, gods are gone, so resurrection magic doesn't work. The only exception is revivifying, which has a 50% chance if the death is fresh, so these are likely permanent. I do plan on creating some sort of fetch quest to bring them back, which might turn into a fun chapter in our story. We've been testing homebrew initiative system, mix of Daggerheart and D&D, where PCs spend tokens to act, and I decide when monsters act. It's been super fun. I like the token system. Daggerheart has its initiative system where like they don't exactly use tokens anymore. I use the optional rule in Daggerheart to use the tokens. It's been super fun for light fights, but this was the first serious one. Some players I felt was unfair or didn't give them a chance to act, which made me feel like the bad guy. I think the system might be undercooked, but even with normal D&D initiative, I believe the result would have been similar. So my questions are, was I too harsh, or should I hand out crybaby points and remind them the world is harsh and deadly? Could the initiative system have been a real problem? How do you handle PC deaths so they feel fair and fun, both in-game and out-of-game? In my situation, what would you have done differently? Thank you for making a bullet point of all those. And then they end saying, I'm a huge fan, love the podcast, along with the short and long-form videos. Keep it up. Thank you. Were you too harsh? No, I don't think so. I think that, like, you went into this, it doesn't seem like you were like, I am going to kill my players for this. Should you hand out crybaby points? I mean, how mad were they, right? Are they in their apartment in Queens doing push-ups without a shirt on and they're shredded? Were they like Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo and they were like grabbing each other and be like, I'm sorry that your character died? How could the initiative system been a real problem? I don't know, because like depending on when people want to go, if someone's hogging the spotlight too much, that's where the token system goes in, right? Because then that is a problem. If someone else does die and someone has been hogging the spotlight in a Daggerheart campaign, then it's like, yeah, that's kind of unfair. They couldn't do anything. They could not do anything because someone kept interrupting. So, but that's also unfair to say in a regular D&D system, because if someone is last to go in initiative, which it's random element, but there's also things you can do to have a better initiative. You know, is that unfair if they die because they didn't have enough turns? Sorry, let's look at competitive magic, CEDH. If you go last, I think you have like a 10% more chance of losing. What am I saying? How do I handle PC deaths so they feel fair and fun, both in game and out of game? Always give a moment. Oh my God, I just said the same things for the last year, dude. Last year and a half. You know, if I prefer PCs dying than them leaving the campaign for their own narrative fun, right? So I don't know. I'd say just like, how do I handle PC death? I give them a moment. I make sure that they're like, whatever. If they're mad about it, sucks to suck. Crybaby point, dunce hat. In my situation, what would you have done differently? Probably nothing. Yeah, probably nothing. The one thing that says the villain killed the person, good villain stuff. Let your villains be villains. Let your villains be villains. I'm sick of the theme of these villains being like conquest and evil and I'm a lich and I want power. Why can't we make things more complicated than that? Why can't they be a little smarter? So, but I can see the conflict of interest being like the villain kills the person that's down that couldn't act in initiative. Would I have done that different? Probably not. This seems like something that came up in the moment, and I'm sure I would have done the exact same thing. So I'm a little averse to being like, on my last fight with this guy, in my last campaign, I had it where he killed somebody, but it was because it was out of desperation, and it just made sense for the story, right? I don't think that's unfair. People die. People die. Dear Zach the Bold, longtime listener, first-time caller, love hearing your D&D takes. Even if my partner now refers to the podcast as the Magic the Gathering guy you listen to, I've toned it down. Big fan of the show. It's fantastic, et cetera, et cetera. Now the question. In episode 18, you talked about how D&D could double the amount of classes, not just subclasses. It has, remember, guys, never quote me. It has, before you even started running into problems with there being too much overlap between them. I was wondering what kind of things you meant by that specifically, what kind of classes besides 5th edition. The only ever TTRPG I've ever played /ran is Star Trek Adventures, which doesn't really have classes in the exact same way as D&D. So I don't really know what kind of other classes there are in these kinds of games. Things like Artificer and Alchemist are arguably the two most popular homebrew classes that people like to add to D&D. What other kind of things could be added to the game? Would love to hear your ideas and thoughts. Love from the UK, love from England. Just kidding. England is not the UK. I know that I shouldn't say that because you could be part of some other place in the UK. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. I appreciate the keep up the good work. I have always wanted an intelligence-based, I've said this on the pod before, I want an intelligence-based reaction system that allows me to, there is in Warhammer 40K, what is the name of that? Rogue Trader. There's a class that allows you to give like one other action point or two other action points to another character and they can immediately do one more action. And it's really nice because it's like, if you have a martial character that can't move close enough to a monster, then it's like you can give them a couple extra action points to move closer to the monster so they can start their turn without wasting the action points to use their movement. I also want to say, I don't know how other Dungeons and Dragons has the best movement system that I have seen as of yet. I don't like it when movement takes up action points. You literally just get into the same thing that an opportunity attack's a different conversation, where it's like in Pathfinder, when I play Marshall, it's like I move, that's one action point. It's a 3 action point system, it's so versatile. One action point to move, another action point to swing, and then another action point to do another slightly less weak attack, right? A slightly more weak attack. Yeah. Oh, I'm on r/PF2A. Everyone's just shitting on me. And it's like, okay, so what? I get a movement, an action, and a bonus action. And then the thing with like Rogue Trader, it's like I use action points to move. So that's my turn as I move. I think Dungeons & Dragons has gotten it right. I'm sorry. I just really do. I really like the Pathfinder class, the kineticist, I think is what it's called. Where it's essentially you're an avatar, earthbender, airbender, waterbender, whatever. I think that's cool. I think there'd be a nice class that is a little bit more reliant on like resource management. I don't think there's inherently a lot of people who use resource management in D&D 2024, because I almost said the different name 40 times, that want to do components and stuff, but I think there should be a component-reliant class, like if you really want to be doing that, instead of just being like, well, for flavor, I'd like to pick up spiders and whatever. I think it'd be fun if that was an option, right? I could list a bunch, but I think it's still, to this day, unfair to say that, well, we can't, if Dead by Daylight can still make killers that are slightly unique after this much new characters coming into the game, and killers and stuff, we as the D&D community can definitely make something that's a little bit original and a little bit nice. Hey, Zach, big fan of the podcast. Your takes on D&D and life in general are always refreshing and fun. I'm a newish DM and hoping you provide some guidance and tips on how to improve. Almost 2 years ago, 5 of my friends and I started a D&D campaign for which I am the DM. Aside from minor disruptions from when my wife and I had our first child, aside from minor interruptions when my wife gave the miracle of life, we managed to do our monthly session. Keep that baby off the ground. No, keep the baby on the ground. Make sure all your guests have clean, take their shoes off, and they wear like stuff over their feet. You don't want to be kicking the baby. You don't want to be getting toxic warfare. We managed to do our monthly session almost without fail. We start at 9 a.m. and have a barbecue for lunch, and then play until about 6 p.m. That is awesome, right? That is the best feeling in the world. We play from dusk until dawn, from dawn until dusk. I'm getting too much mixed up with my Zach Bagans Ghost Adventurers introduction. There are some things we still don't understand. God, that show has fallen off. We start at 9 a.m., have barbecue for lunch, and play. It's just like so awesome. I don't know how to get anything done in 3 hours. No, I think that even if you're 80, you will have that memory for as long as you live. We were all clueless and started with a DOIP beginner module in Theater of the Mind. DOIP? Guys, I beg you to stop using acronyms. Like, what is DOIP? Diagnostics over Internet Protocol? Like, what is DOIP? DOIP module. What? What is this? What is... Oh, Dragon of Icespire Peak, really? Dude, just type it out. Yeah, I was playing COS. Yeah, we played some DOIP, and then we moved on to COS with the BBEG being S, and my TTRPG BBEG. I'm the DM, D&D, DBRGG, DOIP. Really? Just spell it out. And Theater of the Mind, but combat was really challenging. Fast forward a bit, now we all sit in the lounge room where I have a Foundry VTT. We're playing DOIP on my Foundry VTT, and then we're going to play COS with D&D and my TTRPG. Guys, I beg and plead. Also, shout out to Sky, the mod, one of my great mods over at the Discord. There's a subreddit now, r/ZachTheBold, as well as the Discord in my link tree. You can find out, and you can hang out with some people over there that talk about D&D, my videos, as well as some other stuff. You can check it out, but shout out to Sky for making D&D like. That was the original impression that I had gotten that from. So, we sit in a room with Foundry VTT on my 85-inch screen, and they all sit together and use D&D Beyond to manage their characters. Generally, this has worked really well, and everyone is super engaged. This has given me the ability to go really custom and make my own maps, tokens, and quests without needing to purchase and store expensive minis and terrain. I totally agree. Like right now, I have a problem storing minis and terrain. I have nowhere to put it. I think this is very cool. 85 inches, crazy, dude. That's sick. Needless to say, the campaign has now gone off the effing rails, with the party now deep within the Neverwinter Forest, investigating a secret refuge that appears a paradise but relies upon a golden sun that hangs from the Elder Tree, draining life essence from the poor villagers for sustenance. This is Dragons of Icespire Peak. So is this still like Dragon? That is really off the rails if that's Dragon of Icespire Peak. While the elites live in the shade, avoiding these effects and becoming essentially immortal, the only downside is it has made it a little video gamey. We lost a lot of flexibility. That Theater of the Mind, do people acronym that? Stop acronyming things! Theater of the Mind provides, and I spend a ridiculous amount of time prepping. I'm talking in total probably 40 plus hours between each session. I love it. Well, I think that sorry, they misspelled it. It's PRMY. Well, I think my problem is that I really struggle to improv stuff. I haven't pre-prepared, which leads me to over-preparing a lot of stuff that gets rewritten later. How can I act like being better at improv and dynamic role play? Do I need to take improv classes? No, you do not. I feel like I need to take the lead and encourage my players to do also. Thank you, much love. Kind regards, blank. No, you don't have to take improv classes, shockingly. Listen, I think you're getting a little too much on the awe factor of the physical medium of Dungeons & Dragons. Like, you had it right in the first place when it was all, like, yes, combat is hard in Theater of the Mind. I personally use maps for it. You should only have maps, and this is going to be, unless you're running Dungeons and Dragons of Icespire Peak and whatever, dungeons feel video gamey. And in our current edition of Dungeons & Dragons, video games feel very video gamey. What I would say is have maps only for combat, and maybe have some like thing on the ground, but like you can't get caught up. Yes, you bought the 85-inch screen, you got everything set up. But if it's a detriment to your game, right there, we have breached through the barrier of cool, I don't want to say knickknacks, but like cool accessories into the world of like, oh, we are forgetting the main point of the game, right? You get better at it. You are doing the thing to get better at doing the thing, right? It is low stakes. You love your game. It's very apparent. That's awesome, right? You don't need to kill yourself over the idea of like running my game perfect. You will have more campaigns in the future. You clearly have a lot of people who want to play this game with you. Work on improv through the game and tell your players, be communicative. Tell them, hey guys, new stuff. We're going to use the table less. I'm going to use the map less, only for fights, and I'm working on my improv skills, so I can't be dedicating a lot amount of time that I am now to prepping for a D&D game, because it's intruding in my life. I need more time on TikTok. I need to figure out the order of American wars and American interventionism in other countries. It's a long Wikipedia article, guys. We got to figure that out, all right? So don't get too caught up in that. You are practicing the things that you want to be better at. You are doing the thing, right? You won't be as good as it, but good at it, but you'll get better, right? A perfect example is this podcast. I don't say super anymore. I don't really pay attention. So thank you for writing in. I really appreciate it. We're going to get into super thanks. If I missed your super thanks, it's because I missed it over the weekend. I should be better about it, but it takes forever to upload these things, especially because the episodes are getting longer and longer. So we have plenty. Thank you to everyone who does send in the super thanks. It's always appreciated. It is never required. And I don't want people to feel like it. So I never want to feel pressured into anyone, but I appreciate it and what's doing to the show. And again, we're working on lights. That's our big thing. We want to get better lights. I do want to get a better lens, but I've been talking to my mentor in the film world, and it's told me that I should probably buy lights first. Magic Girl Dungeon Master sent in a big $15. Hello, Mr. The Bold. First of all, I want to thank you for the great content. I stumbled upon the pod maybe a month before you released episode 11 and have been hooked. Also, please don't bully me too much. I'm just a humble Phantom Rogue player. Do I know what Phantom Rogue does? I don't think so. I know a lot of all the classes, but I think Bard and Rogue are the two that I know the least amount. But I have a quick rant about a fellow player at my table to start. I joined the campaign, me and the other player playing late. He's a new player who's been in this campaign for over 2 years, and I've been obsessed with D&D for a while, but this is just my first long-term campaign. This person knows very little about D&D still. An example of this is that just this week he learned that the Paladin has prepared spells that can change on a long rest. The entire campaign, there has been at least one artificer in the group who openly switches their spells every long rest. However, their lack of understanding of the game is only slightly annoying, and we can help them when we can. The bigger issue, we can address that it's annoying to help new players. We do it anyways, right? We accept that, yes, we just want to get into the game, and we can be like we don't have to thought police ourselves on being well, I can't think it's annoying. They're new. You can find it slightly annoying, but you still do it because everyone was new, right? That's a tangent. That's the first tangent I think I've ever gone on the pod. The bigger issue is that they crave attention. This started out as them. I'm playing with Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. Okay, that was mean. Maybe we don't know. We don't know yet. They started out as them cutting into the roleplay moment between other players. Bigger issue is that they crave attention. This started out as them cutting into roleplay moment between other players, within and out of character quips and jokes. Eventually, we stopped acknowledging the jokes, and I don't think he liked that. In most recent stunt, we've had a very simple plan to steal an artifact from the subsection of the cult we're fighting. He leads a distraction group who are all disguised as cult members. Him as the overall leader using alter self. I led the stealth group to grab the item. We agonized over this plan for real-life hours. I'm serious. This is a DM thing. Start pressuring your players to just make a plan, because it's most likely not going to work out. Because I used to hate this. I would plan for hours and hours and hours, and I'm just like, can we get on with it, dude? We agonized for real-life hours, making certain that it was a foolproof plan, since the captain of the subsection, who knows the cult leader personally, was bedridden for in-game reasons. This player then proceeded to ask about this bedridden captain who can barely move, be dragged out of his war tent on a stretcher to talk to him. Of course, the captain gets dragged out into the middle of this war camp along with the artifact we need to steal, so we need to make our move now out in the open. Of course, combat is triggered, and one of the members of the stealth team drops to 6 HP in one round. We are level 12. Holy cow. Somehow we all survived, and when we confronted this guy about going off script, where did I misread that? Was bedridden? Oh, the player asked for the captain to be, so that was not part of the plan. Almost getting us killed, he can only say, it could have gone worse, and we're all alive, aren't we? You're literally playing with a Marvel or the comedic relief character in Red Dawn, we could have been killed. Well, we're still alive, aren't we? It's raining inside of your D&D room. How do I get through this guy's thick skull that we should split the attention that if he doesn't care characters we do? Sorry, this is long. This one's long. Here's 15 schmackaroos for your troubles. Appreciate you for the 15 big old bucks. Yeah, you had the perfect moment. You should have let you should have broken a water pipe in the ceiling of and if you don't have a water pipe in your ceiling, start building houses with water pipes in the ceiling. So it starts raining in the room, and it's like that moment from The Notebook. And you should have been like, God dang it, or God dang it. What are you doing? We're alive, aren't we? Everyone's raining. We're holding the guy with 6 HP, the player holding 6 HP. The DM's freaking out because it's their house and a water pipe has burst. We could have died. I was following orders. You grab him by the scruff of their shirt. You push him down. We stick to the plan. This is what you need to have. You need to have a real life confrontation that follows along something of like a war movie. Drew Blue 20. You're not being okay. Let me give real advice. I don't know. This is the main theme of our entire show, right? How do we deal with players that want too much attention, that are trying too hard to be funny, right? You gotta say something to them. If it's beyond the point of like, okay, this is so annoying, you gotta confront them human on human, one-on-one. If not, in game, in play, or whatever, you can be like, okay, enough. You can be like, dude, you always do this. Stop like breaking the plan. But, the most adult thing to do in this situation is just tell them, like, hey, I'm sorry, but I can't be making these plans all the time just for this guy to do a bit. Like, can you please stop? So, Drew Blue 2112 sent in $25. Thanks to the Chungus who causes something to happen, a blue-collar Chud's life every week. Can't wait for the streams and long-form content to come. Never stop, my glorious king. Thank you, Drew Blue, for the big $25. I really appreciate that. I really, really do. I had so much fun with the last stream. I am very excited to do the next one. I don't know when it is. I'm very busy. Like I said, November has been crazy. So I'm hoping, let's hoping for December. It's going to slow down a little bit. Jeremy Grover, 59, but we're doing another collaboration. I'm so excited for it. It's going to be great. But halfway through December, I'm going to be gone again. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, not the collab. I'm super excited for the collab, and that will come out soon. So I'm not really looking into that. God, I'm yelling. Jeremy Grover, 5979, sent in a big $5. So I'm not really looking into having you world build a campaign for me, but it comes off that way. Feel free to make fun of me. So most D&D-like games, thank you, are set either in a fantasy world with magic or more of a futuristic world with cyberpunk elements, which isn't bad. But I feel like there's a huge gap for settings in the 20th century. Because of your great stories at the beginning, I thought about having a campaign to set something like in the Vietnam War would be cool. But how would that look? D&D seems to be really allergic to guns, often either entirely ignoring them or treating them like magical spells that take a long rest to reload. And neither concept works for Vietnam's era of an early assault rifles and aircraft. I love this. I love like I can tell, like I have buddies who love trains. I have buddies, oh my God, I'm running out of space again on the SD card. I have a buddy who loves trains. I can clearly tell that you love like Vietnam War and war history. I love that stuff. Is this just a fool errand or something that could be flavored to work? Love the pod. Hope you have a great day. Okay, so yeah, the problem with like guns is hard, right? And because it's like in sword play, you can kind of like have it like a battle of attrition, like a gun kill. Like you are pointing something at someone and you just delete their life, right? That is the problem with balancing guns in D&D. So you need to find a way of like, how does that work? What does that look like? There are classes in D&D, like Gunslinger is fairly balanced, I think. Well, maybe. I think about stuff like that. What I do for guns, seriously, is I just reflavor crossbows. Crossbows or bows or anything like that. I just reflavor them because then you still have the balance without having to worry about something like, making something very overpowered or using like the shotgun stats, which I think is 2d12s which is like crazy. It's crazy, which is 2d12s, I think, in 2014 rules. But what I did and what worked for my campaign is that I had a cowboy that used a Winchester, and I just reflavored their entire ranger class to fit that, right? And I know you're using like M16s and stuff. Why don't you say it's like a collection of bullets going or something like that? You can flavor it in a way that you don't have to spend so much time about thinking about that. I'm interested in what you're saying about, this Vietnam War, because D&D isn't made, if you're making a grounded game about Vietnam, it's not the best system for something like that, right? There are systems out there, I'm sure, that are like historical based on, because it's like TTRPG, D&D likes come from an age of war games, which was a lot more, it's still like, castle sieges and stuff, but there was also like, it's like Risk. Risk is not a war game inherently. I don't think so. I think it's just a board game. But, there's a lot that feel like this. Now, if you're doing something where it's like, it's Vietnam War, and then all of a sudden, like, magic exists, and this happens, and whatever, I think that's cool. But how does that look what are the implications of that in the world, and what about it makes it so it's not just the Vietnam War with magic, right? Like, there would be crazy repercussions throughout the whole world for something like that. And I think that's what would make it interesting for you, because you know a lot about this stuff. And I will say, since it seems that you like, the Vietnam era of warfare and whatever, and looking purely at like a logistical historical point, right? I love it when a DM is very passionate about that stuff and they like slip in little real world facts and things like that. I had done a Pendragon game, which is about King Arthur and stuff. And that bronze girl, Jasmine, ran a game for us and at a convention once. And I learned a lot about, life in that day, like that era, but not, of course, it's Pendragon, so it's not like real or whatever. So I always love that. Yeah, someone even commented maybe Vampire the Masquerade. But it depends on like the scale you want to do, right? It depends on what you want to do for it. Blue Bread 00 with another big $10. Hey, Zach, can't wait for Thanksgiving this year. Last year, all 15 of my second cousins had Apple Vision Pros strapped to their head as they all held hands and danced around a glowing red iPad and began chanting in Gibberlink. What is that? That seems like it's a thing I should know what it is. It's like it's that's the AI communication, like a giant eldritch slot machine rose up from the iPad and picked the kids up and took them into the Appalachian Mountains. I can still faintly hear the sounds of jackpots being hit in the night. That's so good. Soul UC9MU sent £10. Hey, Zach, cool, thanks from sacrificing your sanity for the podcast. In long form, I've been catching up on the podcast these last few weeks, and I'm sad now I'm caught up, but I wanted to donate and ask you 2 questions, Mr. Zachariah the Bold. First, I want to know how you're opinion on Dispatch. I've not played Dispatch yet. Like I said, November's been very busy for me. I've not really even played many games. Like, I'll pick up a game of Battlefield 6 every now and again and do like a quick CQB battle in Lockdown or whatever it's called, or I'll play some Magic the Gathering arena. I will play Dispatch at some point. It was also a thing where I wanted to wait for all the episodes to come out. But, with Charlie and Travis and Matt and it being part of Critical Role and everything, I will absolutely play Dispatch soon. Second, and this is a D&D question because this is a D&D podcast after all, my DM I've been playing with watches. Meanwhile, last week I said I beat Metroid Prime 3? I'm such a hypocrite. I'm a chud hypocrite. Second, and this is a D&D question because this is a D&D podcast after all, my DM I've been playing with watches your videos, but it started to become more unhinged. In last session, he took my PC Paladin, who was all for upholding peace, and made him massacre a camp of surrendering bandits. He took my PC Paladin, who was all for uploading peace. I don't know, is that my fault that he took control of your character? I think I've ever once said or implied in any of my videos that a DM should take control of someone else's player character. That's crazy. Dude, I'd be so mad. I told him my character wouldn't do that. I would take them in and bring them to authorities, but he told me, and I quote, "I make the story, and if you don't like it, I'll disintegrate your paladin, and you can make yourself a new backstory." Now what I can do is, since it's not only me whose character is being taken over and misused, am I right in feeling, yes, you're right in feeling angry. Am I DM or am I a big baby and should wear the dunce hat? Thank you, Zach the Mold. Sorry for the paragraph. You will no doubt butcher, as I literally butcher saying you will no doubt butcher. No, oh my God, you're not. DMs shouldn't be controlling your characters in any capacity, even if you're gone. It's not their story. It's their world. It's their setting. You are making the story with them. This guy's getting his kicks off using your guys' time to make it so he tells a story to impress you. How broken is that cycle? What argument, philosophically, if we look at the structures for that argument of what he's saying, he goes, argument 1, you need 3 pillars to make an argument, right? Pillar 1, my players need to come together to make a world. I'm making the story. Part 2, this is a Dungeons and Dragons games and I'm not writing a book. Therefore, we are making a story together. Argument 3, I'm a dumb, stupid dumbass, And then it's like, what's the argument? It falls in on itself. Dude, Socrates is freaking rolling in his grave that he's not as smart as me. Yeah, dude, you gotta say something. This is not how the game is played. Intrinsically, your dungeon master is playing the game wrong. How do you even approach that? You go, hey, here's this clip of Zach the Bold telling you you're DMing wrong. Here's a clip of you here's Zach the Bold here's the cameo I got of Zach. I spent 10 quid and 10 pounds. What's the difference? Can someone tell me? And someone Here's a cameo I paid for Zach the Bold on his podcast to tell you you are doing it wrong. I'm not even trying to be mean. Your DM is playing the game wrong. Burning Blaze 005 with another $5. First off, I was so surprised you mentioned Red versus Blue because I've been rewatching it and over again the last couple of years. God, I remember I would come home from school and watch like The Creature Hub. That like I was so stressed out about like stuff at home and I remember like just watching that stuff and like I knew that was my buddy was a big Rooster Teeth fan. My lips are chapped. And he was just like, you know, so many of us grew up on that stuff and it's so new. And when I remember talking to Aaron Ego Raptor the first time and being like, hey, you like formed me as a creator a little bit. And like I used to watch your shows and I'm sure these people hear that all the time now, but it's just like, it's crazy. It's such like a developmental period. We watch this stuff. Second, I think I finally understand the appeal of playing Magic. Ugh. With Yu-Gi-Oh, it's all about getting cards in your hand and playing them to get another card and so on and so forth. But with Magic, it's all about having lands and enough lands to actually do multiple things per turn. It's actually the worst part of the game. It's actually being mana flooded or flooded or dry. I like not pulling lands is actually the worst part of the game. Other than when someone tells you it dies to removal. Thanks for all the Instagram DMs, guys. Anyways, sorry, I'm one of the rats. I just wanted to see how Corners is going. I'll die soon so you can write in peace. Don't die. I don't want you to die. Corners is going good. I'm going through it again. Someone asked in the subreddit. I'm lurking there. When is Corners coming out? I will reiterate. It's probably going to be delayed until December. I'm hoping we can get out first week of December. I'm hoping next week if we can really push it. Again, it's a lot of anticipation. I don't want it to just be like something I throw out, right? So we're working on it. I love the series. And I'll be in this next, going forward, I'll be working on Corners more. And I'll be working on Corners like it is gone out of my range of being like, oh, people really like Corners. So we're working on it. Very Sour Dragon sent £5. Hey, Zach, hope you're doing, oh my God. Hi, Zach, I hope each day for you is a delight as it is for me, the long-term viewer of your videos. I have thought to share. Sure, role-playing game is the best term for generic conversation around D&D. Surely role-playing game is. I get TTRPG is long, and acronyms are only useful when, with the shared understanding. Very well written, okay. But saying D&D like feels bad and less intuitive to the other unfamiliar, the general hobby. Your thoughts are valuable to me. I always look forward to your future endeavors, be that short, long form, or collabs. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I agree with you. Role-playing game is better than D&D like, is better than TTRPG. The problem is role-playing game, we cannot take that from video games. And I'm not saying like we can't take it like, oh, it's sacred to them. I'm saying that video games are bigger than D&D. When you say role-playing games, people will think Fallout, Expedition 33, Stalker, you know. People will think of that as a role-playing game. I think it is the best term. That's what it used to be. Because you didn't have to differentiate between a TTRPG and a CRPG, a computer RPG. But now, because video games are so much bigger, it becomes even more confusing to be talking about an RPG like D&D or an RPG like Expedition 33, right? And because of that, we cannot say that role-playing games is a better term. Because I think in essence it is, but because of its weight in other communities, we can't. It'll be confusing in TTRPG. But I appreciate you saying that and letting me clarify, but it just wouldn't work. Papillon7210 with a big $10. Oh, my science. Is that Samus? Wow. Oh, wow. Stay calm. Stay calm. Takes a hit from inhaler. Samus, you don't talk much, do you? Whoa. Hey, you can't go back there. I know you saved the galaxy like 3 or 4 times. Way more than that. Way more. Because Metroid Prime 1 through 4 happened in between Metroid 2 and Super Metroid. But, it's under construction. Yeah, it's under construction. Loud crashing noises, metal pipe falls, cow yowls. Yeah, it's under construction. And everything is under control over here. What have they done to my game? What have they done? If this happens in Half-Life 3, in Half-Life 3, it's a lot. It's different, right? Because you have, like, the soup explodes in Half-Life 1. You have... In Half-Life Alyx, you know, there's quips in Half-Life Alyx and about that beer I owed you, you know. I'm the biggest Half-Life fan out of anyone, even bigger than Valve News Network. I'm a bigger fan. All because he's a data miner doesn't mean he's a bigger fan than me. Dedicates his entire life to Valve and Half-Life. And with that, that is the end of the episode. Thank you for sticking around for another long one. I appreciate it. My name is Zach Ronaldo, better known as Zach the Bode. And this has been Bold Takes and Bad Tempers. I hope you have a great week. If I see you at PAX, I'm glad I did. But this is hard to say because this is coming out after PAX. So I love you all. Have a great week. Thank you for writing in. If you have any other sticky questions or hot takes, you can head on over to boldtakes@outlook.com. Don't make fun of the email. I will see you next week. Bye.